Shalom, this is Levi Shore, and I'd like to welcome everyone back to Sweet and Good Torah. We have a very exciting Parsha this week, Parshas Mishpatim, and at the end of the Parsha we see an incredible thing where Moshe Rabbeinu, where Moses goes up to Shamayim, goes up to heaven, and receives the luchots, the 2 tablets of the Torah. And he's up there for 40 days and for 40 nights. So we're going to look into the actual text of the Pasukim and the Chumash a little bit. And it's so mystical and so wondrous, like what we're going to learn tonight. We're going to bring in a little bit of Kabbalah and some Midrashim to understand a little bit of what's going on. Okay, so let's first look at this first pasuk. So we have Moshe Rabbeinu, we have Yeshua, and the 70 Zakanim, the 70 elders, and they're beginning the ascent on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai, to go up. And the pasuk here, it says, Vayiru Eis Elokei Yisrael, V'tachas ragla b'maseh livnas Sapphire uke etzem Shamayim latohar. So it's really incredible. It says that they actually saw the God of Israel. They saw the Shekinah, and under his feet, under the feet of Hashem, they saw this vision of sapphire bricks. And then it was the etzem, it was the appearance of Hashemayim, of the heavens, in purity. So let's look a little bit into what Rashi's saying here. So Rashi's saying that the Kamaise Livnas Sapphire, that had the form of the sapphire brick, he says, He haisa lefanav b'sha'as hashibud. So he's saying it was in front of him at the time of the enslavement. So the time the Jewish people were enslaved in Mitzrayim and Egypt, Hashem kept this array of sapphire bricks under the Kisay HaKavod, so he could gaze at, and through gazing at these sapphire bricks, he would see that the slavery of the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. And it says, Shahaya Meshubadim b'maisei leveni. It said because the enslavement, the actual slavery of the Jewish people in Egypt, in Mitzrayim, was building bricks. So these sapphire bricks reminded him of the slavery of the Jewish people while in Mitzrayim. So it's also fascinating because we learn in the Zohar that there's the Nevuah of Yeshaya, of Isaiah, that there was a vision of the third Beis HaMikdash, and that Hashem's actually going to build the third Beis HaMikdash with these sapphire bricks. And once again, as we discussed last week in Parsha Yisro, the luchots themselves are kind of in the shape of these rectangular bricks, and Hashem used 2 of them for the first set of luchots. So we're going to discuss more about, what is the sapphire, and we're going to discuss the Kisay HaKavod, the throne of Hashem, that's also made of sapphire. And we're going to talk about basics of Kabbalah and a little Midrashim to understand it. So let's go further into the Parsha. And it says here, V'ya'al Moshe el hahar v'yachas ha'anan es hahar. So this is interesting. So it says Moshe ascended, he went up the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. So v'yishkon kavod Hashem al Har Sinai. And that the presence of the glory of Hashem, which is usually a reference to the Shekinah, that this dwelled or rested on Mount Sinai, in Har Sinai. V'yachasehu hanan sheshet yamim. And then this cloud covered, all of the mountain and Moshe for 6 days. Vayikra el Moshe. And then it says, he called out to Moshe, meaning Hashem, Bayom Hashvi, on the 7th day, Mitok Hanan, in the midst of this cloud. So Amare Kavod Hashem Ke'esho Cheles Barosh Hahar. And this Kavod Hashem, this glory of Hashem, the splendor of Hashem, was like a fire that was consuming the top of the mountain, the Rosh Hahar, Leinei B'nai Yisrael. And this was before the eyes, or in the eyes of all B'nai Yisrael. All the Jewish people saw this. So Vayavo Moshe B'sok Hanan, and Moses goes in the midst of this cloud, Vaya'al El Hahar, and then he goes up the mountain. So Vayihi Moshe Bahar, and Moshe was on the mountain, Arbayim Yom v'Arbayim Laila, for 40 days and 40 nights. Right, so very incredible, mystical things that are happening here. So let's understand a little bit. So one thing we know from the Nevuah of Yechezkel is that the Kisay HaKavod, the throne of Hashem, is made also out of sapphire. So the word sapphire in Lashon HaKodesh is sapir, and it's with the letters Samech Pei Resh. Now this is also related to some other words. So the word Sefer means text, and the word Sipar means numbers, and Sipor is communication. And we see like these all have the roots of Samech Pei Resh. And the Torah itself, if we think about it, the Torah Hashem writes on the sapphire for the luchots, and there's the text, there's the osios, there's the letters of the Sefer Torah, and it's even called a Sefer Torah, the text of the Torah, and each letter in the Torah has a number, it has a gematria, and then it communicates to us information about the mitzvos and about the creation of the world and how we should live and how Hashem directs the world. Now it's also related to another word that's very important, the fabric of creation. It's related to the word sephiros. And sephiros are these 10 emanations from Hashem, and they're almost like a lens of how Hashem can send certain midos, of how Hashem, we talked about this in Parsha Beshalach, how Hashem guides the world. He can guide it through chesed, through kindness, or through din and gavur. And then these 10 sephiros make up the structure, the form, the tselem elokim of a human being. Our bodies are shaped in the form of these 10 sephiros. And then these 10 sephiros are the essence of each of the spiritual worlds. So we're going to discuss a little bit of that, because when Moshe is ascending, he's not only physically ascending the mountain, which he is, but he's physically or now he's spiritually ascending in these different worlds up to the world of Kisay HaKavod. So we're going to discuss this briefly. So we live in the world that's called Olam Hazeh, which is this world, or sometimes called Olam Shafela, the low world, the lowest world, or the lowly world. So the world above us is the world of Asiya, the world of making. And that's a purely spiritual world, but still a world that has Tov and Ra, still a world that has good and evil mixed inside it. And it's basically populated by Shindalas, which are these spiritual creatures, but they're lower in the spiritual creation scale than the melachim, who live above in the next world. So the next highest world up from Asiya is the world, the Olam of Yetzirah, the world of formation. And this is generally called in books of Kabbalah as the world of the melachim, the world of the angels. And what we know from the Torah is that these melachim are made of a combination of fire and water. So they're very different from physical beings. And it's hard to picture because we don't really see a combination of fire and water in this world. I mean, I assume it would be some kind of nuclear fusion on a spiritual scale. Now above that world of Yetzirah is the world of Beriah. It's called the world of creation. And that's the world where Hashem has this Kisay HaKavod. He has his throne. And from that world, Hashem sends down from above. He guides how the world's going to go. And there's a higher world of Atzilus, which is called, I believe, the world of the Spheros. And that's when the Nevi'im, the prophets, have seen that the image of a man upon that throne. They saw these 10 Spheros, which make the image of a man, because we ourselves are built with these 10 Spheros. And so we're going to go into a little bit Midrashim that explains what happened when Moshe went into this cloud, and then what happened when he ascended to Shamayim to receive from Hashem the luchots. And it's interesting, and it shows a little bit of our relationship to Hashem, and how Hashem's giving us the Torah, and these elevated spiritual beings, the melachim, angels. So it says, so Moshe ascended to the summit of the mountain and was covered by the cloud for 6 days. So this prepared him, this was a preparatory period to purify his body so that he should become like one of the melachim. So then he was allowed to ascend to Shamayim, entering the environment of the Shekhinah. So it's pretty interesting. First I'd like to say this, I'm reading out the Midrash Says, which is a book put together by, I believe it's Rabbi Moshe Wiseman. I would highly recommend this book. It's excellent. It's all translated into English, and it contains many, many Midrashim from different Sfarim. So I think what's happening is in these 6 days that Moshe's wrapped in this cloud, it's doing something like a spiritual, even stronger than a mikvah, that's purifying his body itself to go into a spiritual world, high spiritual world. So Moshe penetrated the darkness of the cloud and was admitted to the heavenly camp. Afraid for his life, Moshe was reciting the chapter Tehillim that protects a person from harmful powers. So he's saying, Yoshev b'seiser elyon, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, referring to Hashem, you will not be afraid of terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by the day. So I think one thing is, as he's ascending through the world of Asiya, there's a threat of these Shindalids. And maybe, we would translate it to demons, but demons has like a context that people know a lot of, that's not accurate about demons. So we're just going to refer to them as Shindalids right now. And then even the melachim, we're going to see, are not always so thrilled to be interacting with us. So when Moshe came to Shamayim, the melachim complained to Hashem, Master of the universe, Rabbono Shalom, they cried. What is this earthling doing among us? He came to receive the Torah, Hashem answered. So should the precious Torah, which was concealed by you for 974 generations before creation, before Maisa Bereshis, now be handed over to mortals? The melachim protested, who is man to deserve this gift? Answer them, Hashem ordered Moshe. So I'm afraid they will burn me with the breath of their mouths, said Moshe. We got to remember that these beings, these melachim, are made out of fire and water. So cling to my Kisay HaKavod. Cling to this Kisay HaKavod, which is made of sapphire. And then answer them, Hashem told it. Now it's interesting because I think this Kisay HaKavod, by being made out of sapphire, out of sapphire, we see a very close relationship to all those other words that describe the Torah. So Moshe turned to the melachim and argued. It says in the Torah, I am Hashem your God, who brought you out of Mitzrayim from the house of slavery. So Moshe asked the melachim, he said, were you in Mitzrayim? Were you in Egypt? Were you enslaved by Paro? By Pharaoh? It says, you will have no other gods. And Moshe questions the melachim. He says, do you live among idolatrous nations? The Torah commands, remember the Shabbos day to sanctify it. He says, do you work? That you should be in need of Shabbos rest? Yes, the Torah says, you will not pronounce Hashem's name in vain. Do you conduct business deals that you have to swear? Honor your father and your mother. Kivud avein. Do you have parents? He asked the melachim. The Torah prohibits murder. He says, is there bloodshed in Shamayim? Remember, this is spiritual realms, and there's no death. There's only eternity. So it says, you will not commit adultery. He says, are you married? Are you in need of this warning? It states, you will not steal. Is there silver for you to steal in Shamayim? So the Torah commands not to desire another's property. Are there houses, fields, or vineyards among you that you should need this prohibition? So you do not possess a Yetzer Hara, as do human beings. How then do the Torah prohibitions apply to you? So the melachim conceded the truth of Moshe's argument, and all of them became Moshe's friends. Before he left, each malach revealed to him a particular secret. A healing formula that was deduced from Hashem's holy names and the Parshas of the Torah. So at that time, the Malach HaMaves, the Yetzer Hara itself, the angel of death, revealed to Moshe the secret that a plague can be stopped by burning the Good Torah, the incense, the special incense that was burnt in the base HaMikdash. Now we're barely touching on this subject, but it's really fascinating because we see something that's very important. We see that the Torah was specifically made for human beings living in a physical world. The melachim who are elevated beyond us spiritually don't need a Torah because they're already in a pure spiritual environment. But us, we're created as a spiritual being, an neshama, a soul, inside a physical body in a physical world. We need the Torah to bring kedusha, to bring holiness into the physical world. And we see Hashem commanding Moshe to argue with the melachim. We see that the Torah is special for us, and it helps us elevate the spiritual quality of the world. I thank you very much. Good Shabbos. I thank Hashem for giving us the Torah and allowing us to learn sweet and good Torah. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week.